Women seem to be gaining more respect as men are realizing that women actually can work outside of the home.
The EVN conference was convened last Friday to discuss the issue of increasing numbers of Jewish refugees fleeing Nazi persecution. Representatives from 31 countries met at EVN-les-Bains, France. 24 voluntary organizations also attended as observers, many of whom presented plans orally and in writing. The fact that the conference did not pass a resolution condemning the German treatment of Jews was widely used in Nazi propaganda. It can be argued that the failure to agree on who should receive Jewish migrants from Germany further emboldened Hitler in his assault on European Jewry. The Nuremberg laws have already made German Jews stateless refugees in their own country. Some 150,000 of about 600,000 German Jews have already fled Germany, mostly to Palestine. But British immigration quotas prevented many from migrating. In March 1938, Hitler annexed Austria and made the 200,000 Jews of Austria stateless refugees as well. Britain and France granted Hitler the right to occupy the student land of Czechoslovakia, and in March 1939, Hitler occupied the remainder of the country, making a further 200,000 Jews stateless. In 1939, the British White Paper capped Jewish immigration to Palestine at 75,000 over the next 5 years, after which the country was to become an independent state with an Arab majority. Before the conference, the United States and Great Britain made an agreement. The British promised not to bring up the fact that the US was not filling its immigration quotas, and any mention of Palestine as a possible destination for Jewish refugees was excluded from the agenda. In the course of the conference, the delegates expressed sympathy for the refugees, but did not commit their countries to let more refugees in. No high-level official was sent by the United States. Instead, Roosevelt's friend, American businessman Myron C. Taylor, represented the United States at the conference and stated that the American contribution was to make the German and Austrian immigration quota fully available. The Australian delegate noted, "As we have no real racial problem, we are not desirous of importing one." The French delegate stated that France had reached the extreme point of saturation as regards admissions of refugees, a sentiment repeated by most other representatives. The only country willing to accept many Jews was the Dominican Republic, offering to accept up to 100,000 refugees on generous terms. In 1940, an agreement was signed, and Rafael Trujillo donated 26,000 acres of his properties for settlements.
African Americans are calling for the integration of the national defense industries and the armed services. The first method used was that of black lobbying in Congress and the White House through letter writing and personal entreaties. This form of quiet pressure did little to change the status quo, and more drastic measures were needed. With the backing of the NAACP, Philip A. Randolph was able to bring considerable pressure on the government by threatening to march on Washington with over 10,000 blacks if there was not more integration in national defense employment and the armed forces. As Randolph himself states,
"Power and pressure are at the foundation of the march of social justice and reform. They lie in and flow from the masses."
Randolph was able to mobilize enough people for the march to frighten Washington. FDR was in fact so frightened that he pleaded with Randolph again and again to call off the march, since it would cause the country to divide more along racial lines. Randolph refused to call off the march unless something was done with regard to segregation in the national defense industry and the armed forces. Randolph's relentless pressure on the government had worked. On June 25th, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 8802. The order mandated that
there shall be no discrimination in the employment of workers in defense industries or government because of race, creed, color, or national origin.
Furthermore, it was
the duty of employers and labor organizations to provide for the full and equitable participation of all workers in defense industries.
The order also established the Fair Employment Practices Committee, FEPC, whose job it was to investigate complaints of discrimination in the defense industries and to take the necessary steps to resolve the problem. Because of the executive order, Randolph called off the march even though it did not accomplish the goal of both integration in the defense industry and the armed services. The executive order was
truly historic. For the first time since the Civil Rights Act of 1875, the federal government took concrete action to protect the rights of black Americans.
Okay. And now for a special guest appearance by musical genius, Hip Hop Hitler and the Nazis!
in Braunau, in Austria, born born and raised in Vienna was where I spent most of my days, chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool, and thinking of ways to annihilate the Jews. When a couple of them, who were up to no good, started raising loans in my neighborhood. I set up one little camp and the Russians got scared. They said, if you're gonna invade Poland, can we at least share? I whistled from my car. When it came near, the license plate said Fahrenheit Braun was in the rear. And Germany, doing your own cousin was rare. They said, nah, forget it, yo home to Berlin. Caught millions of Jews, about 7 or 8, and I yelled to my homies, yo home, smell you later. Shipped them to camps when they were finally there. Took them all out with some gas in the air. Hi-ho, let's go. Hi-ho, let's go. Forming in a straight line, going through a tight wind. Kids are losing their minds. Let's creep up, pulling in the back seat, generating steam heat, pulsating to the back beat. Let's creep up. Hi-ho, let's go. Shoot 'em in the back now. Oh, I know I want, I don't know. All revved up, ready